Hi, in this discussion we're going to begin talking about Airdrop. We have this discussion and then we have a short demo that you should look at afterwards. Airdrop is a very simple API that's just been added to an existing view controller subclass called UI Activity View Controller that we just leverage in iOS 7 to perform an additional activity type. So here we go. What is Airdrop? It's a technology that allows files to be shared between devices. It has to be a file. It could be a document. It could be an image. It could be some other type of file, but it must be a file. Both devices must be running iOS 7, and both devices must also have Airdrop enabled. As I already said, we leverage the UI Activity View Controller class for sending the files. We tell the UI Activity View Controller class when we instantiate one that we want to send a particular kind of thing, and then for receiving files we have a new delegate method in the app delegate called application OpenURL source application annotation. So we'll talk about that in just a moment, the receiving of files. But for sending files, this is very simple. So let's go ahead and look at that process. To send a file, we make a new activity view controller by calling alloc, and then we call init with activity items, application activities. So there are two parameters. They are both NS arrays. So the first array is an array of the data objects that the activity needs to work with. These are essentially what we want to send, or that what we want to use to create whatever it is we're going to send. So in other words, this could just be a URL to a file path. It could even be just an NS string of a file path. It could be data pulled from various parts of your app. It could be as simple or as complex as you need to get whatever needs to be done. The second parameter is usually going to be nil. In fact, it will always be nil unless you are defining custom activities. Airdrop is not a custom activity. Airdrop has been added, among other things, to the list of supported UI activities in iOS 7. So for Airdrop only, or for anything that iOS 7 already supports, this parameter is going to be nil. It will only be something, and it's got to be an array, even if it only has one item, if there is some kind of custom activity that you are presenting within your activity view controller. So again, this is usually going to be nil. Finally, you display the instance by calling this method present view controller, and that's a lowercase p, present view controller animated and completion. Of course, the view controller you're presenting is going to be the view controller you instantiated from UI Activity View Controller above. Animated, just say yes. We always animate the presentation of views. Completion is a block that you want to happen after the activity goes away, or after the Activity View Controller goes away. So once that Activity View Controller is dismissed, the completion block will run. We can say nil here, but if there's some cleanup that your app needs to do, then you would put it in a completion block as a handler, and then that would run when your activity is dismissed. So that's sending a file. Receiving a file is a little bit more difficult. Before you do anything else, you have to add a UTI in your info plist, and in the demo on this, the Airdrop demo, I show you how to do that. But for every kind of file type you're going to send, you have to add a uniform type identifier that specifies the type of that file. In the demo, we just add the UTI public.txt, which is just a text file. So that covers a lot of things. But if you need specific file types that you're going to send, then you need to supply those types as UTIs in your info.plist. Then you implement this delegate method, application OpenURL source application and annotation. This has to be implemented in your app delegate class. Now, you could create an NS notification object that listened for this notification for this delegate from the app delegate in some view controller, and that might be the most clean way to do this, but you need to implement this in your app delegate. This guy returns a bool, and it should always return yes. Apple strongly suggests that whatever you do, even if there's some failure involved, or the URL is not found, or the other application source is nil, or whatever, always return yes, and handle errors within the method. Okay, so here are the parameters. Application is the app that received the URL. This is the app that is currently running from this point of view. So application is the UI application pointer to the app that received the URL. Open URL is an NS URL, and this is the URL to the file that got received. Now, this URL is going to point to a specific directory, and this is in the documents/inbox directory, or the inbox subdirectory of documents. Inbox is read-only. All that the application can do here is read that file, that URL, or delete it. It can't write to it. So if you need to modify whatever is in that file, you need to move it back out into your documents directory or into the library or wherever you're going to put it in order to get it modified. Source application is the name, it's an NS string, it's the name of the app that sent the file. Pretty simple. We can find out the source, we know the destination, it's the app that's currently running. And then annotation is just a generic class pointer. It's an ID. It points to a plist that is supplied by the source application as kind of an annotation, or it contains more information about the content. So this could be a plist that contains the data objects that you send when you set up this airdrop that is passed in to the previous slide. It could be a lot of different things, but this just gives extra information that you want to pass along. So not only can you pass a URL that contains the file, but you can also pass a plist, which is a very good thing. In other words, you could simply pass the annotation, and then the URL might be nil, if you get my drift. Okay, so we have a demo of this, and I encourage you to watch that, and then try this on your own. Now, when you try it, you'll need a friend with another iOS 7 device, and you'll need to test this on an iOS 7 device. You can test sending, but in order to test both sides, the send and receive side, you're going to need two iOS-enabled devices, preferably iPhones, and install this code on both of them just to see how it sends things back and forth. Thank you very much.